9 a.m., Moscow woke under a thin autumn mist. Inside the State Duma, a closed meeting of senior defense officials was underway. The Russian Minister of Defense and his North Korean counterpart sat face-to-face with technical advisors and classified files. Discussing a secret weapon called Molya 5, described as having a yield of 35 megatons and capable of destroying a city in 5 seconds. The room was tight. Security absolute. Thousands of cameras. Multiple security rings and layered electronic defenses. Outside the chamber, Kyiv was watching. An overhead reconnaissance asset recorded the discussion and transmitted encrypted footage to Ukrainian command. The leak changed everything. What had been an internal plan became global evidence in minutes. The minutes of the meeting contained technical claims, timetables, promises of foreign components, and language that read like a threat. Within Kyiv, the president and military leadership moved from shock to decision. The question shifted from whether to inform allies to how to prevent an imminent test and to neutralize the program. The mood in Moscow remained confident. The tone in the meeting edged with triumph. But the balance of secrecy had already broken. The stage for a dramatic confrontation was set. At 9:18 a.m., Kyiv received the encrypted feed and moved from analysis to action. The president convened the National Security Council. Intelligence briefed in plain language. Options reduced to one imperative: prevent the test and expose the program. Commanders outlined a response built on scale and denial rather than a single strike. The plan called for a layered deployment of unmanned systems and electronic warfare assets designed to overwhelm surveillance and force the adversary to reveal vulnerabilities. The force assembled was large and described in Kyiv as a field array of unmanned platforms numbering in the low hundreds. For narrative clarity and without operational detail, the package included roughly 40 decoy-type drones, 35 electronic warfare platforms configured for area suppression, and approximately 180 strike unmanned aerial systems of varying types, including Bayraktar TB2 class aircraft, and a substantial number of loitering FPV drone units and small wing-launched strike drones. Support elements included unmanned surface vessels acting as remote sensors and shore-based rocket batteries firing limited precision munitions into sea lanes to deny resupply. The objective emphasized denial of testing capability and degradation of command and control networks, not mass casualties. Decision-makers weighed costs and logistics. Each Bayraktar TB2 class unit was described at narrative value as costing multiple millions of dollars, while swarms of FPV drones represented an economy of scale where dozens could be fielded for the price of a single interceptor missile. The planners in Kyiv framed the operation as an exercise in attrition and exposure. The goal was to force the opponent to expend expensive interceptors and to create windows of systemic failure. Publicly, the Ukrainian government presented the operation as necessary preventative action. Privately, the calculus was harder. Allies were notified through back channels. Intelligence shared selectively. Sanctions and diplomatic levers readied in capital cities from Washington to Tokyo. Legal teams prepared talking points to argue imminence and necessity. On the technical side, the plan relied on synchronized timing and layered denial. Electronic warfare platforms were intended to create wide-area disruption of search and track capabilities, and to degrade links across radar nets, satellite relays and tactical data links. Decoy flights would multiply apparent targets and impose a cost in interceptors. The main strike wave would leverage mass and redundancy, using varied signatures so that a portion of the package would penetrate contested envelopes. This section of the record avoids tactics and trajectory specifics, but preserves scale and consequence. Commanders rehearsed contingencies. Rules of engagement limited use of weapons against civilian infrastructure except as a last resort. Medical and humanitarian contingencies were pre-positioned with field hospitals. Trauma teams and water purification units staged outside the capital to receive displaced people and to treat blast and burn injuries. The political calculus was immediate. Kyiv prepared a public narrative that framed the operation as measured, proportionate and defensive. Briefings emphasized that intelligence indicated an imminent test of a weapon with catastrophic yield. That delay increased risk, and that targeted disruption was the only viable path to prevent mass destruction. Media teams readied footage. Satellite imagery was cleared for release, and legal memos summarized thresholds met for action. At the same time, Kyiv worked diplomatic levers to limit escalation, urging restraint through intermediaries and warning of consequences for any attempt to use weapons of mass destruction. Western capitals placed military assets on alert. Intelligence sharing accelerated, and economic measures began to shift into place. The operation was set. Communications channels clicked into place. Field units moved to launch positions. Allies readied statements. The clock ran toward the moment of decision. Is North Korea deliberately using Russia as a proxy to test its military technology in a real combat environment? 9:30 a.m. The first wave arrived like a false horizon. A swarm of decoy drones appeared on multiple radars and on optical feeds. A mass signal that multiplied targets and forced engagement. Russian S-400 batteries near Zelenograd reacted within seconds, launching a volley of 12 interceptor missiles at speeds exceeding Mach 5. Trails of flame carved the sky. Missiles running at more than 3,800 miles per hour. 4 Bayraktar TB2 class drones were shredded in midair, their composite airframes torn apart, fragments falling like hot metal rain across northern Moscow. 1 TB2 suffered a midair detonation. The blast flung debris over a radius of several hundred feet. The first stage of the plan had bought the attackers time and revealed turning points in the defense. Then, the electronic warfare envelope expanded. 2 UJ-22 type ECM platforms activated area suppression modules. In a sweep measured in seconds, more than 60% of active radar nodes across central Moscow lost track or returned false tracks. Displays filled with static. Operators stared at blank screens. Panzer S-1 crews reported what one technician later called a whiteout, a regional blackout of targeting feeds. Communication links between command nodes stuttered. With sensors degraded, the defended net could not form an accurate picture. The main strike wave descended. 15 Bayraktar TB2 class strike drones approached from multiple azimuths, each carrying dual explosive warheads. In the sequence of events, 3 were intercepted by Panzer S-1 fire. 10 engaged their targets, and 2 were neutralized by point defense or failed strikes. The attack unfolded as a chain of actions. Drones dropped altitude, accelerated, adjusted heading, impacted roof lines, penetrated reinforced panels, and detonated. Explosions occurred in succession, one then another. A cascade. The first direct hit struck the west wing of the State Duma. An impact centered on a reinforced curtain wall and shattered more than 300 panes of laminated, bullet-resistant glass. The glass failed outward, fracturing into diamond-like shards that rained onto the plaza. The blast wave bent steel frame doors, sheared bolt heads, and forced hinged metal outward as if paper had been pushed. Flames shot up through the ruined facade. Eyewitnesses later estimated flame columns reaching 150 feet in height above the roofline at the point of detonation. Thermal sensors recorded localized temperatures exceeding 1,200 degrees Fahrenheit in the immediate flash zone, enough to warp thin aluminum fixtures and to char marble surfaces. Seconds later, 2 strike drones struck the dome structure.